Welcome to The Art of Cinema, Episode 3. In this episode, we're discussing Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, starring Michelle Yeoh, Chow Yun-fat, Zhang Zi. This film was released in 2004 and has been directed by Ang Lee. So, Eric, when did you first discover this film? Actually, this film released not long after we met, or before, sorry.
Oh.
2 years.
Did you show it to me?
No, maybe. I don't know.
You know what? This was the first, this was the very first foreign film that really hit me over the head. And I was like, whoa, what the heck is this gorgeous Chinese martial arts cinematography and fighting choreography? And I knew about Wu Ping, the fight choreographer, from The Matrix, which was 1999, right? And it was strange that they both came out at a similar time, like you said, 1999 and 2000. So anything that he had done from Crouching Tiger on, I was just totally freaked out about, and just really, really, really super excited to see anything that he was involved with, especially because of The Matrix. Mm-hmm. And so I can't actually remember if I saw it in the theaters or not, but all I remember was I got really inspired from all of that wire work that they do. There's beautiful scenes when they're running through the rooftops and jumping through. It's very elegant. It's all graceful. It's done with real wires, and they have a whole team of guys pulling each actor. And there's that scene where they fight in the courtyard at night, and Zhang Zi steals the sword, and it's just so beautifully lit. And everything that happens in that film kind of just makes you feel like you wish you could be there. Like you want to be a part of that world. And it's like fantasy, but it's also very, very grounded.
It's a tangible mythology. You feel like you're immersed in the mythology. It feels real. Right. It feels like we're watching real history. Yeah. And we watched this film again last night, and I keep thinking about it. Like, I keep thinking about the end and that music, and when she jumps off the bridge and just where is she now? Where is Shulen now? Where are these characters in this fantasy world? Like they're alive somewhere doing something. It's amazing. And I saw the film in 2000 with friends of mine, sold out theater, packed, huge. It's somewhere in Chicago. And I just remember feeling out of breath, much like you. I'd seen The Matrix before. I saw The Matrix with my father, and knowing who Wu Ping was, knowing I'm going to follow Wu Ping wherever he goes.
Pretty much, yeah.
And I was just blown away. I was blown away by everything, by the music, by the setting, that it was, again, a quality that we love. It was quiet. It was a film that wasn't, there's definitely exposition, but there's not a ton of it. And it's really just this quiet journey into the lives of these people set in this pseudo-real, pseudo-fantasy world of China during the whatever period this is.
Yeah, another thing I really love, too, is the costume design. It's very desaturated, the colors. Everything's kind of muted. There's nothing that's really extremely bright, punchy. There's not too much radical contrast. There's a ton of natural lighting. The cinematographer and Ang Lee did such a good job of really being sensitive with the lighting in this film and the eye lines. The DP was talking a lot about how when there's a close-up on somebody, that he was very particular where the eye lines were going, Ang Lee was. And so, I mentioned that last night when we were watching it. You could really tell that there's so many little details like that just are not happening today. When they're fighting, there's all this dust, so they're actually contacting. So you see the dust fly off, and there's very tiny little bit of CGI, mostly for removing the wires, and one or two shots here and there, and that's it. It's like 99% all in camera fight choreography, and that takes months and months of rehearsal, and those are the real actors doing it, just like in The Matrix, the real actors doing it. And when you work harder, and the Chinese film crews are known for that, working really hard and going above and beyond, instead of just being lazy and using technology to cover everything up, they really put in the blood, sweat, and tears to get it real in camera on the day.
And I don't think that the choreography can be understated or overstated enough. It was like ballet. That first fight scene between Zhang Zi's character and Michelle Yeoh's character, it's just this lyrical movement where they're fighting and it's aggressive, but it's also beautiful, and they're elegant, like moving between each other, and you see her feet grab her feet, and the angles. I've never seen anything like it. I mean, the only other film which we'll eventually talk about on this show is Hero.
Oh yeah,
with that type of elegance.
Gosh. Gorgeous,
but
gorgeous. Yeah,
Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon really did something to me and continues to cast a spell over me.
Yeah. Another scene that was really shocking to see was when she goes to the restaurant and she's sitting down and she orders shark fin soup, and then people start to hear about this amazing martial artist, and she's kind of dressed up like a boy. She has a little hat on, trying to disguise herself, and then all these warriors come from out of nowhere, and they're always following her, trying to challenge her, trying to get a lesson from the master, and they have all these weapons, and they come in there and they just start destroying the place. And there's a lot of humor too. Like the guy who picks a fight with her initially, I think his name is like Steel Arm or something, and then she rips his shirt off and rips one of his clothes arms off, and she just makes fun of him like, oh, not so steel, and it's like, oh my gosh, this giant amazing fight scene just unfolds, and it's just so beautifully choreographed. It is.
It's an interesting scene too, because that scene is the most lighthearted portion of the film. Yeah. Most of the other scenes involving the main characters is very serious. Yeah. There might be a little bit of comic stuff, incidental here and there, but it's played seriously. But that entire scene is pretty funny. Yeah. But it's very serious as well. But it's playful. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So
another scene for me, which is beautiful, is the bamboo, when they're in the bamboo forest. Or on the trees, and they're fighting, and not just he's teaching her a lesson. She's almost running from him, but he's running after her. Right. It's clear when his character, Chow Yun-Fat's character, which is Li Mubai, he's after her, not so much to take the sword. He's going to take the sword back, but he also wants to say, you need some help and I want to help you. I'd love to be your master. Yeah. And she's completely overpowered by him. He's effortless with her. And that scene of the trees was just spiritual.
It is.
There's something else going on there. It's amazing.
Yeah. And also, too, there's a really cool scene when he is fighting her with a stick. Like, she has a sword, and he picks up a twig, and he's so amazing at his craft, at his martial arts, that he has one hand behind his back and he's just kind of like slapping her in the face with the stick, fighting her with the sword, with the twig in his arm. And it's just I think there's a quote in there that says something about real power comes without effort, or something like that. And real skill comes without effort, or something. And it's just so masterfully played out in the movie. And another thing too is the music. Oh my gosh, Tandan did a gorgeous score, and a lot of the fighting scenes are very minimalistic. They have these little drum beats. They have like these very organic type of rhythmic beats and things like that, and it just really sucks you in. It's not overly done. It's not over the top. There are times when the music rises and you really feel involved in the story, and it's also a love story too, which is really beautiful. So
yeah, the music for me is as powerful as the story. I think when you were talking about the film, it's not oversaturated. It's almost a little bit desaturated, just a little. It's not overly colorful, but what's colorful is the story, the action, the fight scenes. It's all that's where the color is coming from. I mean, the scene where that last big fight that Michelle Yeoh and Zhang Zi have together, where she's choosing different weapons. Yeah. It's amazing. It's a little bit funny too, but no, not really funny.
There's humorous moments.
Yes, there are humorous moments. Yeah. Why it becomes so powerful is these women have a connection. Yeah. And this young girl's lust for power is a wedge between them. Right. And Michelle Yeoh's like, okay, this is how you want it. This is how it's going to be. Yeah. And she takes her on. Yeah. And that fight is more than them just fighting. They're having a conversation. Right. Martial arts is a conversation about life almost. Yeah. And they're teaching each other skills in some ways,
principles
morals in the fight.
Ethics.
It's really something. And I remember one scene or one moment from that scene where Zhang Zi has the sword and she goes like this, and Michelle goes, "Don't touch it, don't touch it." Like she's like, "You don't even know what you have." It's
don't touch the sword. You're not worthy to touch it. Yeah. And then right after that, there's this gorgeous shot where she flies out and she runs across a lake. And she just bounces like that. It's a really wide shot. You see the reflection. You see all the beauty. There's so much gorgeous locations. So many gorgeous locations.
And I think what's important to note about this film is it is steeped in Chinese mythology.
Right.
So this comes from years, centuries of not this story per se, but where the story draws its history from are centuries of stories told by Chinese storytellers and so many different things. So I feel like that's what we're also feeling. We feel like this story has been around for years, for all of our lives almost. They're just telling it. It's almost biblical. It feels sacred.
Yes, historical. Yeah. Chinese historical, how do you say, fictional drama or something?
Historical fiction, perhaps.
Yes, right.
Where it's maybe these times existed. Of course, they weren't flying when they were jumping, but even the jumping, the way that they fought, they called it enlightened jumping, I think, when she would fly out of it. Yeah. These are real practices that people have explanations for. I mean, whether they happen or not is probably up for discussion.
Right.
But they just didn't make this up for the film. This is existing in Japanese or in Chinese history.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really cool because I have a lot of Chinese friends and they're telling me like this floating and this kind of like elegant floating on clouds. Like you said, it's a really big part of Chinese history and culture and mythology, if you will. So it's a very different, it's a kind of poetic thing to see and to think about and to absorb as an American. It's just so, people will laugh at that. A lot of Americans will just kind of see it's silly, or they're flying on roofs and floating around. And it's like, it seems like a lot of Americans have a lack of imagination. They have a lack of knowledge of like, what a mythology, especially in other countries like China's, is thousands and thousands of years of culture, and our country is 200 years old. So it's just like I feel like it's educational to watch it and you're being informed about the values and the spirituality of humans that have been passed down for generations and generations and generations, and it has very traditional values too, which I really love. And so there's just so much. The night scene when they fight Jade Fox for the first time, and that one guy keeps getting in the middle, and he's like kind of messing everything up. That was a really funny too. So
what I also think is really notable about this, and this is something that I discussed in a podcast episode, but really the stars of this film are women. Chow Yun-fat, who's Li Mubai in this film, is the star, but you don't see him a lot.
Right.
Who are front and center are the women. And this movie was made before there was commentary. Yeah. Where today, when movies are cast, you see, oh, this studio has casted this person, usually a woman, and they make they attach all this baggage to it. Yeah. As opposed to before commentary existed, they would just cast and shoot the film. And who are front and center are these two female characters who, one might be a young girl and she's got her own, but they're rich, they're well performed, they're well acted, they're believable. No one's questioning why is there a woman on stage, or why is there a woman in this? Yeah. They're just, hey, this is a great story. They don't, no one cares.
Nobody cares.
Because there's no commentary attached to it. And I think this is one of those films, probably much like Alien, where we have these incredible female leads existing before people felt like they needed to have commentary attached to it. And I think that's something to make a note of.
Yeah, and even Chow Yun-fat, like his character Li Mubai, is really calm. He's not overly masculine. He's like a Zen master. And he has a sense of authority and power and respect from everyone around him. And he doesn't, beat his chest like, "Hey, I'm Rambo" or something. And then he also has a really deep love and respect for the other female characters that are there. And you can see that very clearly in just like the mannerisms and the way he moves and the way he talks to people and his body language and things like that. And I just feel like, wow, that's the kind of person I want to be. Somebody who's very respectful and dignified and kind of like a peaceful human being who's want to make the world
better. He's so centered. He's so calm. And there's such a great level of respect. And what's interesting is how this film, they sort of discuss the different roles in class. Like Zhang Zi's character is about to get married. This is the way of things. She doesn't really have a choice. This is a good opportunity for her family to advance their career or whatever. And this is how things are. And Shulen, I think that's her name, Michelle Yeoh's character, she might not agree, but she knows she has to respect it. So, Eric, noteworthy topics, setting and cinematography. It's so amazing.
Cinematography is so quiet. It moves, it's still, it's at night, it's at day, the lighting is gorgeous, it's super subtle.
It doesn't draw attention to itself.
Right, it's not overly lit. There's this one scene that really sticks in my mind where they're outside and Li Mu-bai and his love interest are there, and it's all concrete, and they have this big window, this big cutout hole in the window, and there's all this green bamboo coming through, and it's just like a gorgeous, ideal, serene, peaceful, beautiful, almost like a painting. There's a lot of still moments in the film, still shots that look like paintings, like classic paintings. It's just not overly lit. It's not overly saturated. Like I said before, the clothes are very desaturated. Everything's very muted. There's nothing that's too high contrast. There's nothing that's really vibrant and lush. I think those colors come out in nature. The thing that really stands out in this film in color for me, I think, has been, like you said, the bamboo forest and the greens and the earth tones and the mountains, the trees and the dirt. And they go through the desert. I have that whole desert chase scene. It's really beautiful. So it really does have a wide range as far as scale goes with cinematography. They have a lot of close-up shots. They have a lot of extreme wides. They have mediums. The camera's moving. It really does cover the whole range of cinematography techniques in this film.
And there's that one scene where Shulen is walking into the city when she's going to Peking. Of course, this is old Peking, and it's grand. It looks like the Forbidden City. It's just beautiful. I don't know how they did it. If it's miniature and computer, what it is, part of it like it was existing. Maybe they built a set. I don't know. But the scale of this film is massive without feeling like, oh, it's huge. It didn't feel overwhelmingly big because it was such a small story, you know?
Yeah. And it's hard to pick out one thing because everything's so perfectly woven together. The music, the editing, the cinematography, the acting, the wardrobe, the costumes, everything is in perfect harmony together. And that all goes to the director. He really did a great job. Ang Lee's became one of my favorent directors. I think that is his best film.
I agree. Today. I was thinking the same thing. I think it's his best film. And it feels the most like who he is.
Yeah.
And I'm not even sure who that is, but whatever Ang Lee's heart is, it seems like he's a very sensitive, centered, quiet man.
Yeah, he is. And I remember him talking about this on an interview and a commentary on the film, and he was talking about how he likes romance and he likes the kind of story that Crouching Tiger evolves into. I mean, it is a little bit sad in the end. In a traditional Chinese movies, a lot of them have a sad ending, but there's sort of a poetry to it all, and it's got a really beautiful, sincere quality to it. And it also transports you into another world. Like, you feel like you're in China, like in the beginning when you go into that town and you see that big belly guy like doing the belly roll thing, and there's a little kids with their feet over their heads and they're balancing teacups on their heads and everything like that. It really just transports you
right away.
Yeah,
you're into this lush, rich world that's been around for thousands of years,
right?
And you feel it. It doesn't. It's not this. Oftentimes stories like this have this big in the beginning, blah blah blah, blah this big back. This existed. If in another filmmaker's hand, they would have had a whole backstory about the sword first.
Right.
They didn't. They threw us into the world because it was already in existence. And this is one story among thousands that's happening right now.
Yeah.
And one moment, well, a couple of things. There's some moments that Ang Lee takes and the story takes where you see these minor characters drinking tea, preparing in the morning, very quiet moments, and they're talking, and it's not that important, but it really gives you a sense of who they are. In another director's hands, we would not have experienced this, and it really humanizes these people in a way, and it gives us, it takes a moment to give them space. And that is not something that you see in films every day. And another scene that is a favorite, or it's actually a few moments of dialogue, because you see this film is different journeys of people coming at their story from different perspectives. Yeah. One perspective that I think is really important is Jade Fox. And she's talking about, she used to work at Wudan. And I guess she was a prostitute. I'm not really sure.
They don't really describe it.
They don't describe it, but there's something going on that was confusing. Yeah. And she talks about women like, you would sleep with us, but you wouldn't train us. Like, we weren't good enough for you. And you can see that bitterness and that frustration, and all the years she's carried this in her character. She's out for revenge. She's out for death. And then you see her disciple, even though she wasn't really her disciple, she thought she was, not even knowing that experience. She was surpassing her. She was into the materials in terms of learning, but then you have Xu Len, who is a warrior, who is a fighter, who trained at another facility. She doesn't feel that way.
Right. She's honorable.
She's very honorable. Yeah. So you have all these different perspectives, and the film allows for that. It's not. There's no real clear agenda, which stories shouldn't have agenda. You're just out to tell a story, and it was really beautiful because I felt for Jade Fox. She wasn't just this bad character. She had heart. You understood. Totally. She felt used. Yeah. And she wanted revenge.
Right. And then in the end, I don't want to ruin it, in case anybody hasn't seen it, but, there's this, like, you're my only family and my worst enemy, she says to her apprentice.
My only family.
And my greatest enemy.
My greatest enemy.
And, she tries to take her life at the end. And Li Mu-bai steps in and saves the thief. So it's really beautiful because even the young girl who's kind of misled and got under the wrong crow of a person, is saved by Li Mu-bai, and because he knows that she's young, he knows that she's impressionable, and she's been taken advantage of maybe by Jade Fox, and she doesn't want to be married to this guy or whatever, and so it's a really beautiful insight that he can overlook those, qualities or juvenile mindset or however you want to say it, that he is like the greater good. He has more wisdom. He's more wise than everybody else, and he can see that, and he knows when to act. He knows when to be still, and he knows when to stay out of it. And it's just so beautiful. It's really hard to see that in films today. You don't see that, and I really want to bring that back into the cinema.
And it's hard to encapsulate everything that this film is hosting for us. It's many things. It's many different layers. It's layers of storytelling, layers of visual storytelling, layers of humanity. Right. Who are we? We are agents of our own destiny, but we can't,
force too much.
Yeah, we can't force too much. And really, there's an interesting bit of dialogue between Jade Fox and Jen, that's her name, but it's not pronounced Jen. It's pronounced however they pronounce it in the film. There's interesting dialogue, and Jen is sort of blaming Jade Fox about killing a policeman, and Jade Fox is like, I wouldn't have killed him if you wouldn't have stole that sword. You started this, and again, you're switching perspectives. You're seeing all these different perspectives, and storytellers who aren't as good, bad guy, good guy.
Right.
There's but Asian storytelling, Chinese storytelling, they're so sensitive to how people are coming at their own view, and they humanize them. Like there is some humanity to them, even though they did the wrong thing, and maybe they did some terrible things. There's humanity there. There's a reason why that they're so broken, and you see that beautifully on display in Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. Yeah,
gorgeous film. If you guys haven't seen it, go check it out.
See it.
It's a beautiful movie. Anything else you want to add?
That's really it. Yeah, I would just highly recommend that you, all of you guys, watch this film. You will not be disappointed. There is a sequel called The Green Destiny or whatever on Netflix. Don't watch it. It is awful. Awful.
Terrible.
They just take what Ang Lee did and they just trample it into the ground. Despite Michelle Yeoh being in it, and she's still awesome. But yes, go see Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. It is worth your time. It is coming up on its 20th year anniversary in 2020. So
and also. Put some comments below and tell us what you guys thought about the film. We'd love to hear what you guys thought. And thank you so much for watching. See you next time.
Yes, thank you for watching. Please subscribe, share the video, and subscribe. That'd be awesome.